couldn't give a shit. I mean, even the bloody cows are platted because nobody milked them, you know. So I went to Southern Ireland, and there's the four of us, and I'm doing the driving, you know. The girls are in the back, and me and Robert's in the front, and we're driving down this road. And there's a cottage on a hill, snow sand, white. But somebody with a black paintbrush, it slapped on the wall, Butchie shop. I looked at Robert and he looked at me. And you know what they were, you know, they swear. Robert says to me, so how the fuck have the bloody spelt that? I says, I don't know, but I says, about time they went to school again. Butchie. It was Butchi. Right? Butchie shop. I says to him, it's Gaelic, man. They speak Gaelic out in Southern Ireland, Robert. He says, oh, I never thought of that. Well, as it happened, the road comes along, right? This store sand cottage straight in front of you, and the road veers off to the right, past it. When we got past it, we howled laughing. And the lasses was saying, "The hell are you laughing at?" It was Butchi. I wasn't an I at all. That ran out of space on the wall, and it went round the corner, and it was Butchie's shop, and it was Butchie's, but not Butcher's shop. Why, me and Rob were howling, and it said, and the lasses behind it would say, "What the hell are you laughing at?" That, and it was just on a black paintbrush, but slapped it on the wall, but Butchie's shop. See. But we had to pull in and show the lasses. When the girls saw exactly what they'd done, they were ill. Well, absolutely. I said, we're in Ireland. We are in Ireland. Now that's a she, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, many things had happened. You know.
Mate, Christ, I've been through like towns in Northern Ireland, like close to the border, where it's like flipping people riding horses and carts. It's like somewhere out of 150 years ago. Some of the villages you drive through.
We went past a house. We went past a house. It was thatched, but it was thatched because it wasn't there for show. It was because it was somebody's house, and there was an elderly lady come out and said, "You," and I thought, "Oh, can I wave to her back?" As if she'd never seen anybody for months. And like just places. We went into Letterkenny, and there was a car there with a tyre as bald as what I could ever see. You were even down to canvas. I said, honest to God, in England they get crucified for that. Talk about laid back. But I tell you what, we had some while we were married, like we had some good food, like we had. Do you remember that deer?
Sure.
Robert. Well, we always went out. We always went out for a night out before we come home. All the family. Now the only people that were missing was Ma and Da.
Oh.
They never came.
In Ireland.
But in Ireland. And we always went out. Now, for some unknown reason, we had a friend, and it wasn't related, but you remember Shuey? Oh, it's called Shuey.
Yeah.
And what was his girlfriend's name? And they weren't married, but they always come with us. And mind, I'll tell you what, Shuey was he was a part of the party. Always had good fun with Shuey, and he was a hell of a good singer. Can you remember? Did you ever remember him singing?
Not really.
If there was a band playing, he'd get up and sing with them. Brilliant singing. But they are like that in Ireland. Everybody sings, they know all the words, and you know. But we're all in this pub, And I just happened to say to Uncle Robert, I said, what the hell are they drinking? And he says, oh my God, he says, he says, bloody poaching, not. I said, so I says to Uncle Robert, I said, what is it like? He says, well, it's illicit whiskey. Oh, he says, barred, he's banned. Oh, I says, oh, shut up, you know. He says, because at the time, Robert was in there, was it UDR? The UDA?
Yeah.
What the hell it is? He was pretty high up. He was the youngest sergeant major, is that finished?
You've got 2 minutes.
He was the youngest sergeant major in the British Army, Robert. You remember?
Yeah, I remember that.
Youngest sergeant major. Oh, he said, would you like it? Like, I says, well, I've had some before. And I says, aye, it's all right. Man, the trouble, if you put a glass on that table, right, you'd smell it. Alcohol. If you put a glass of whiskey on that table, you wouldn't smell it. Poaching, phew, not yet off. And it's barred. It's totally barred in Ireland. Well, it's barred. So Robert says to me, he says, do you like it? I says, well, hey, it's all right. You ever had it like, have you ever had poaching?
Yeah, I remember tasting it, like bleeding petrol.
And so do you like it? And I said, aye, it's all right. So Robert says to me, do you want some? So I looked at him and I said, I mean, don't forget there's hordes of us, but there's only me and Robert till. I said, why can you get some like? He says, aye, if you want. So I says, oh, like I'm natural.
Yeah.
I says, if you can get it, because he's an army, you're sergeant. Oh, I said, well, come you and get it. Oh, he says, we've got ways and means.
I said they're the ones who were confiscating it. That's where they go from.
So I says to him, I said, well, I'll have some. Oh, if you can get it, I'll have some. Oh, he says, leave it with us. So I just left it at that. So this particular night, we're all in the backyard of Mum and Dad's little house. It's right beside the river and the bridge and, you know. So Robert comes in the car, like, with the thing, and he comes in, he says, where do you want this? Is that it?
Well, you've got about another minute or something before.
He says, where do you want this, Poche? I says, why, where have you got it at? He says, I've got it in the boot of the car. I said, champion. He says, how much do you want for it? He says, now, hang about. He says, I want a tenner. Jesus, I says, how much have you got? He says, I've got a dozen bottles. A dozen bottles. Jesus. I says,
They were like bottles that size as well. They were like
I know.
dozen wine bottles of it.
Wine bottle. They were Lucasade bottles, that's what they were. I says, a dozen. And he said, Jesus, I was thinking just a bottle. A bottle. He says, oh man, I can't do that. I says, shit. And I says, well, what are you going to do?
How long's
I
that
said,
done that?
I never thought.
It'll be counting down in the bottom right hand corner.
Yeah.
50 seconds.
50 seconds.
50
You've
seconds.
got.
Ooh, well, let me put it this way. For 50 seconds, says to him, he says, I can't take them back now. He says, you'll not have them. He says, I want 10 quid for me. Wait, 10 quid for a dozen bottles of bloody whiskey. That nigh on what we're looking at. I says, Robert, I'll have to go up the main street, get some money out the bank. He says, well, do that, I'll keep my mind out talking and we'll just keep quiet about it. And that's exactly what I did. I went up the main street to get money out the bank. 10 quid, I mean in empties, 10 quid was a hell of a lot of money.
That was, huh?
And believe it or not, I went home with a dozen bottles of poche. If I'd have gotten stopped by the Gardaí, or whatever the case may, I would have been shot. I would have been caught. And the trouble was,